Hey, Peter.
What's up?
Today we're talking about Stevie Wonder's immortal Songs in the Key of Life album. We're talking specifically about the 4 singles that were released. 2 of them got to be #1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. Can you name all 4 singles?
I think so. I mean, definitely.
Yeah. I wish. Great call. 3 to go.
Oh, 3 to go.
Sir Duke. Well done, Pete. 2 to go.
Okay, 2 more. Now it's getting a... Oh.
Yeah.
Remember
Another Star. Great song. You got one more single. What do you think was one of the singles, one of the hits that got
One
released?
of the hits, so it's got to be...
You would think. Isn't She Lovely? A Million Father-Daughter Dances. Not a single, not a hit.
Really?
Yeah, what else you got?
Oh, maybe...
Summersoft, perhaps the best song on the album. Very popular with musicians. Not a single, not a hit.
Okay, hit. Got to get back on hits. Okay,
Hits.
so it's got to be...
If It's Magic. Unbelievable. Not a single, not a hit.
Well, it's a hit for me.
Well, let me hip you to some real magic here. How about this?
Oh, that one's good too. Yeah.
I'm Adam Annis.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Music Explored.
Explored, brought to you today by Open Studio. Go to openstudiojazz.com for your jazz lesson needs. Peter.
He's back.
Peter, no, he never left. Peter, it's another big day. I know you're shocked to hear that.
You know what? We're just going to assume that it's always a big day.
We're living a big life.
We're living a big life. It does seem like it's getting bigger and bigger. And with our guest today, for sure, it's going to. We're going to top the charts today. I can tell you that.
We're going to try to, because we are listening to, I'm not even going to say one of.
Yeah.
It's our all-time favorite album, Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life.
Yes.
I don't know. It's my all-time favorite album.
You just set the bar high. Sir.
I don't want to speak for you.
I love this album.
Not only that, but we've got a very special guest from the Hit Parade podcast. The great Chris Molanphy is here. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We are so excited to talk to you today about Stevie Wonder and about your expertise with this, which is about how these things have charted when they've been released and how they've done even since. And I'm stoked to listen to this music and talk to you guys about it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, thanks for being here,
Yeah,
Chris.
well, and when you guys gave me the selection of albums and I saw Songs in the Key of Life was on the list, first of all, it's a great album. And second of all, it's like a great chart album because there are so many superlatives around it, the way it charted and what a big hit it was. So yeah, we can get into all of that.
Yeah, and I'm really excited because, we talk about the singles, we talk about, the charts and stuff, but I think we kind of gloss over it a little bit in pursuit sometimes of like, which is the track that Herbie played on? That's my #1. And we throw around like personal charts and musicians charts and maybe even jazz pianist charts. Turns out that's not the same as the general population's charts. So I'm really excited to learn more about that and really even just like what that means, chart topping, Billboard, we throw around these terms. And in fact, I've been in the Recording Academy for many years now, and I still get a huge Billboard magazine every month or so to my house. And I'm like, what is this exactly? And it just sits there awaiting my perusal.
Well, I think Chris might encourage you to peruse a little more because there's some interesting stuff going on.
Indeed.
No, if you haven't checked
you have to be a nerd for this kind of thing. Certain people are wired for this, and I am one of those people.
Well, prerequisite is done right here, I can tell you.
Well, before we get into the music, let's get a little background here. So this double album, released in 1976, was in that string of what people often refer to as Stevie's classic period, from Music of My Mind through Songs in the Key of Life. You want to be a little annoyed with something? Stevie started working on this album when he was 24 years old and recorded it when
God
he was...
damn it.
I know, right? When he was 25.
What a genius for crying out loud.
A genius. He'd already recorded like 12 albums before this, too.
Right, and it's the last in that string of 5 great albums, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
But we forget how young he was during this time. He was in his early 20s making all of this music, and now his mid-20s making his masterpiece.
I think when you do start that early, everything, like his mid-20s is like mid-30s for most other. I mean,
100%.
really, in terms of sets and reps, number of albums, number of compositions, tours, performances, all that kind of stuff. And I thought when you said you want to get really annoyed, I thought you were going to bring up the fact that many folks were very annoyed because this album was delayed.
Yes.
And there was a lot of lore around that as well.
Yeah, they actually made T-shirts that said, "It's coming soon," you know.
Or I think it was "We're almost finished."
We're almost finished. That's right.
Yeah. It was before it was even coming. It was
and by the way, 2 years. That's all it was. Nowadays, 2 years is normal.
Nothing.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, Taylor Swift now releases an album a year, but like during the 10s, Taylor Swift released an album every 2 years like clockwork, and nobody thought that was ridiculous.
Right.
Back then, to wait 2 years was kind of like, oh my God, what's taking so long?
Yeah, I mean,
especially after the run he was on.
Yeah, he rattled off Music of My Mind, 72, Talking Book, also 72, Intervision, 73, and Fulfilling This First Finale, 74. And then everybody was like, where's our 75?
Where's our masterpiece this year?
Yeah.
Well, and shall we repeat the Paul Simon Grammy quip? I mean, why did Paul Simon win Album of the Year for Still Crazy After All These Years for 1975? He literally stood up on stage holding the Grammy and said, and I'd like to thank Stevie Wonder for not releasing an album this year.
Right. Wasn't it like the main thing? It wasn't like the first or main thing he said when he stood up to before he even thanked everybody?
It was like the little button on his, he thanked his producer, and I'd like to thank Stevie Wonder for not releasing an album this year. Because for those who'd forget, Stevie Wonder, to this day, a record he still holds, Taylor Swift hasn't beaten this, nobody's beaten this. He had 3 Album of the Year wins in a row.
Crazy.
Taylor has had more, but Stevie had 3 in a row. Nobody's ever pulled that off. Intervisions, Fulfilling This First Finale, Songs in the Key of Life, back to back to back.
Well, and if he would have planned songs a little bit better and done just 2 regular albums instead of 1 double album, he could have gone 4. Paul wouldn't have won for Still Crazy,
right?
Yeah.
Paul would be in the gutter somewhere, depressed. You know, his whole trajectory would have changed. You know. Well, can we just dig in a little?
Paul was fine because he'd won for Bridge Over Troubled Water with Garfunkel, and he was going to win with Graceland a decade later. So he was fine.
Okay, he's doing okay.
Can we just dig in a little bit into this idea that you were just mentioning, Chris, about like 2 years was an eternity back then? Like, why is that? Why have things changed? Because like I was thinking, you're talking about Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Kanye, all these like mega artists now, years go in between. You know, we just lost D'Angelo last week. I mean, he was an outlier in terms of decades going between albums. But I mean, this idea, like what was in the water in that early 70s? I mean, even going back to like a lot of the jazz records and stuff in the 60s.
Coltrane's making like 3, 4, 5 albums a year sometimes.
But also, not only are they making albums every year at least, they're like recording albums in September and they're coming out in December.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, even though the technology is so much better and so much easier, should be today. But what's your thoughts on that,
I think
Chris?
in 1965, the Beatles were banging out Rubber Soul in time for the Christmas market, and like they knocked it out in like 2 weeks, and it was in stores like a week or 2 later. That's what it was like. Because I think, speaking of the Beatles, I often do a before and after with the Beatles.
Yeah.
With Sgt. Pepper, it isn't that Sgt. Pepper was the first concept album. You have Frank Sinatra albums before Sgt. Pepper that were concept albums. It's that Sgt. Pepper changed the record industry's understanding of the commerce behind albums. Because now, for starters, first of all, Sgt. Pepper had no singles released from it. That was a new concept, that you would release an album and not take any singles off of it for the American market.
Right.
And the album as statement kind of gains currency, and then it becomes the core unit of measure of the record industry. The folks may not remember this, but you know, in the 50s and early 60s, the single easily outsold the album. And the single was kind of like the core unit of measure of the music business. It's only when, starting around Rubber Soul and then gaining traction with Revolver and Sgt. Pepper, that the music business kind of reorganizes itself around the album. And in the early 60s, you might have a band like the Beach Boys or, you know, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles putting out 2 or even 3 or 4 albums a year, because the album is not necessarily a statement back then. And then it becomes Pet Sounds with the Beach Boys is a statement, like, and the commerce kind of builds around that.
Right.
And so by the 70s, an album a year, maybe 2 albums a year if you're Elton John in his prolific period or Carole King in her prolific period, that would, you would still have that album a year cycle. But for Stevie to take 2 years coming off of all those hits to put together an album, the music business was not set up that way. And I think Stevie, you can even say, helped change the perception of how long a promotional cycle for an album would be. I know you guys talked about Fleetwood Mac's Rumors.
Yeah.
It took them 2 years to follow that up with Tusk. It took the Eagles 2 years, almost 3, to follow up Hotel California with The Long Run. So suddenly all these artists are taking routinely 2 and 3 years. And it's kind of like you can point it as before Songs in the Key of Life, after Songs in the Key of Life.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always it's funny you mentioned the Beatles with that Sgt. Pepper's, because especially starting at Talking Book, I don't know if this is true, but to me, I hear Stevie saying, listening to Abbey Road and saying, I can do that, but better. Like I can make a better version of that. And he starts making these albums that are a little bit more, like less single driven, a little bit more in that vein, using synths and things like that, and really takes what the Beatles did and improves on it through this period, in my opinion.
Yeah, and less kind of Motown soul. I mean, not that he was always really that restricted to that sort of sound and grooves, but even less so, more rock stuff, more bluesy, more jet, like more cross genre, kind of just like, what is that? Oh, that's a Stevie record. And then it builds up year after year.
Music of My mind.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, think about Music of My Mind with Jeff Beck, playing on that, for example.
Sure.
And you think about him covering the Beatles, We Can Work It Out, and I think that was 71, just before the run that he did with all the albums. And frankly, it's probably the one time a cover of a Beatles song actually improved upon the Beatles song. So Stevie is thinking differently at this time, and he's thinking more album. And also in terms of the commerce, he had re-signed. He'd gotten through his little Stevie Wonder period. Right. His first Motown contract expires. He demands and gets artistic freedom. Yeah. And that's part of what you're hearing during the 5-album run is Stevie's artistic freedom. Frankly, you're hearing it even after the 5-album run, because after this, he does Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants, which is about as free an album. Oh. It may not be a great Stevie Wonder album, but it's
pretty great.
Talk about that was a chart topper. That's a chart topper with jazz musicians for sure.
Yeah, jazz musicians love that.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, super interesting. Well, I mean, speaking of like playing the music that he wants to play, he starts off his this 2-year wait for this album, and the first track you get is this.
Good morning or evening, friends. Here's your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster. Could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. It's that love in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away.
I still think that in this run, this is the best sounding of the albums in the run. For me, like the sound.
That's probably accurate. I mean, I just think the recording technology. I mean, you guys were talking about this when you talked about Aja and Rumors. Yeah. How by 76, 77, it's kind of like everybody had figured out the recording technology, and those are just clean sounding albums.
Clean sounding albums. The low end is incredibly rich and detailed. Like when that bass comes in for the first time, it just drops your heart into the pit of your stomach, at least for me, because it just feels so big all of a sudden, which we don't get on Music of My Mind or Talking Book as much. It's not as full of a sound. It's not as rich of a sound.
Yeah, and I mean, this is definitely a little bit more smoothed out sound in terms of like the way it's EQ'd, the way it's mastered. I think for sure, the recording technology. I mean, we think, oh, the 70s, it was one thing, but things were moving pretty quickly then, even before you got into the 80s with, serious drum machines and all these kind of things that affected the music. But I also think he's out in the West Coast. I mean, all the Music in My Mind, Talking Book, Fulfilling Us, I believe those were all recorded with the same production crew, same studios in New York. This is an LA kind of sound, Some of it was recorded at the Rumors studio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Record plant. But it's Stevie, his voice, I think, is the thing that's most consistent from the period right before. Well, it's the same period. I always consider this as like a mini different period from the earlier ones.
Almost how there's some kind
I
of
don't think you're wrong.
Yeah.
I do think it stands apart, even though it's part of the 5-album run. Sonically, it stands apart from the other 4.
For sure. Which is such a huge part of it.
Think about just one album previous. Think about Fulfilling This First Finale. Think about a song like Creepin', for example, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's a woolliness to the sound of that record. It's a fuzzy funk sound on that album that I love, by the way.
Great.
But it's very different than the vibe on Songs in the Key of Life.
Yeah. And I might be oversimplifying with this new, East Coast to West Coast, but it's definitely damn.
Great song.
This is more raw, too.
This has like a Herbie's Headhunters vibe.
Yeah.
Totally.
Where Songs has more of a Rumors Asia vibe.
Exactly.
And this, I believe, is Stevie on drum. This is definitely Stevie on drums.
Woo! It's so good. All right, we got to do Fulfilling This at some point.
I know.
It's happening. It's going to happen.
Fulfilling This is the underrated gem in the run, frankly.
I totally agree.
My theory is it's just so hard to say. People don't recommend it enough. I love that this is sort of like sonically is kind of lives in its own world.
Yeah.
Some generations have little crossover, I don't know, like 77 to like 82. Exennials have I don't know if you guys know. Anyway. Moving on.
But the thing too
what
is
are those?
I think this idea, I don't think there's any Stevie drumming on Songs of the Key of Life, actually. I think that's
interesting. I never knew that because his drumming is actually one of the appeals of those first records in the run.
Yeah, I could be totally off, and I don't have the.
You keep talking. I'll
please keep. So I can. No, but I know on that track it wasn't. And this is the thing. It's like that contributes to. I don't think it's a better or worse. It's not about that. It's just different. Like the drums are so important, obviously, in any kind of groove-oriented music. But Stevie's concept of playing the drums is so unique. Even though I know if you look at the live stuff, especially the live stuff from Europe that's available, the videos 74, 75 with this band. And actually Greg Brown is playing drums on a lot of those videos, very young Greg Brown. And he's influenced by Stevie's drumming because you can tell he's checked out Talking Book and Fulfilling This and stuff. And Stevie's fills and stuff were so unique. But when we get to this, where we've got what could be perceived, at least technically in terms of for drummers, more seasoned drummers, more trained drummers, it kind of changes the sound a little bit.
It looks like Stevie has a couple of drum credits on this. He's, according to our research here, he's the only person playing on Knocks Me Off My Feet.
Okay.
Oh, that's amazing.
And
that's one of my very favorite tracks on the album. That's great.
Yeah.
He has a drum credit on Isn't She Lovely, but also Raymond Lee Pounds has a drum credit. So I don't know who's doing what there.
But the earlier records, it's like he's almost playing everything.
Oh, yeah.
Even though there's a fair amount of other credits, it's usually background vocals or like Sanborn.
I think Superstition is all Stevie except for the horns, if I'm not
that's
mistaken.
right. Yeah. Yeah, Intervisions that we just talked about a few weeks ago, he's all over that on drums. I mean, the whole thing.
And playing a lot of Moog bass on that stuff. Here we've got, who's playing bass on here?
Nathan Watts.
Nathan Watts,
on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so he's really getting into the band concept, and I think you hear that. I mean, it's a more polished record. You can already hear it at the beginning.
So we got you here, Chris, and we thought maybe we'd listen to some hits. So next up we have a Talk with God, which is one of my favorite songs on the album. Village Ghetto. I mean, the entire first, the whole album.
The whole record's pretty good.
I know, where do you
bad.
cut it off? Yeah.
But I thought we'd actually talk about some of the chart toppers here. So the first single that was released was Sir Duke. Is that right?
No, I wish.
I wish.
And by the way, an interesting detail. The album drops in September 1976. They don't release a single from this album for another couple of months.
Why?
The person I would compare Stevie Wonder to in 1976 is Prince in 1985. If you remember when he put out his first album after Purple Rain, Around the World in a Day, he claimed he didn't want to release any singles. And finally, the label kind of forced his hand and he releases Raspberry Beret. Stevie did something similar in 1976. He's kind of like, no, here's the full album. And eventually, I don't know if it was Berry Gordy, but Motown prevailed upon him to release a single. And the first single they release is I Wish. And it doesn't top the charts until January of 1977. Like more than 4 months after the album is out.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's so.
Here's the first single.
Looking back on when I was a little nappy-headed boy, then my only worry was for Christmas what would be my toy. Even though we sometimes would not get a thing, we were happy with the joy the day would bring. Sneaking out the back door to hang out with those hoodlum friends of mine. Ooh, really at the back door, but though I thought I told you not to go outside. Trying your best to bring the water
Nathan Watts.
to your eyes, thinking it might stop her from whipping you behind. That place those days good. Come back once more. Why did those days end? Where have you go? I miss those days good. Come back once more. Why did those days end? Where have you go? 'Cause I love them so.
I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. The horns, by the way, are on trumpet, Ray Maldonado, on trumpet, Steve Medaio, on saxophone, Hank Red, and on tenor saxophone, Trevor Lawrence.
And who's
And-
playing drums on that one?
Raymond Pounds.
Raymond Pounds on
Okay.
drums,
Yeah.
Nathan Watts on the bass, and background vocals by Renee Linda Hardaway. But man, that sounds good. Talk
Yeah.
about clean.
Oh man, the drums.
Right from
man.
the opening.
Yes.
I mean, like that is one of the best openings to a single. That doom, 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 when
Yeah.
it comes in. There are rap songs that came out decades later that I think are an homage to that opening.
Right.
That.
Homage or interpolation? That's always the
I
question.
mean, have you ever heard the song On Fire by Lloyd Banks, which I think came out in like 2004? I'm convinced the opening of that record is like an homage to I Wish.
right.
Stuff like that. Never mind the fact that I Wish also got actually sampled by the likes of Will Smith. Will
Sure.
Smith turned it into a #1 hit
Right.
in 1999, I think. Wild Wild West.
And like
Wow, West.
like every
Yeah,
Stevie
exactly.
song, at some point on the album, he's going to take you to church. Like
Yeah.
there's going to be some church in the music, and this is
The
the perfect
breakdown.
example
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
And I think too, the idea of, well, one thing with people using, it's just a minor 1 to the 4. Like that's straight up church right there.
Yeah.
1 to the 4. That's
the
that's your
bass
amen.
line, that. Yeah.
It's so simple but so effective, and people can take it pretty much copyright free because it's a bass line. I mean, you can't totally, but I mean that's why you hear it a lot, Chris. It's like they're hiding behind the bass lines can't be copywritten concept, which
Yeah.
doesn't always work. But I mean, that's the thing too. Like it's such an unusual. It wasn't that unusual at that time, but maybe to be a number. This was #1, right, on the pop chart.
Number one
one.
on both the pop and R&B charts.
Pop and R&B.
January of '77.
But to have something that's like so well crafted and starts out with a super melodic bass line, and then the drums coming in. I mean, I'm listening on here. Like I think we can never with headphones. I think we can never understate how, and I'd love to hear your take on this, Chris, in terms of like stuff, not just being like musicians geeking out or big fans geeking out, but like how does it cross over into everybody being like, well, I don't usually listen to Stevie, but I heard it on the radio and this is a hit all of a sudden. Is like the sound quality. I mean, these drums are mixed so well, like super hard pan on some of this stuff. The guitar. I mean, just such a beauty, The playing's great.
Stevie was the leading edge of crossing over funk you know, and R&B in general
Yeah.
to all audiences, right?
Yeah.
So like, I mean, some prior #1 hits by Stevie Wonder, he not only takes Superstition #1, that's no surprise, but like, you know, the #1 single from Fulfilling This First Finale is You Haven't Done Nothing,
Yeah.
which is pretty funky for a record that tops the pop charts.
Yeah, very
like,
funky.
Or, you know, I think Boogie on Reggae Woman peaks at #3 or #5, something like that. Like, he's getting some pretty funky stuff on pop radio even before Songs in the Key of Life. So like,
Right.
I Wish is just a gimme by the time that shows up, you know,
Right.
because he's Stevie Wonder. He can sonically do varsity level stuff that, you know, nobody else can do.
Check
So-
out these horns real quick from I Wish. Tight.
Tight.
It's punctuation, right?
Yeah.
Even more than on most R&B records. The
For
way
sure.
the horns function in that record is just like
Yeah. No, that's
putting a
that's-
button on everything.
That's a great way to put it because you have a lot of, I mean, there's so many great horn sections that we're about to get into Earth, Wind, and actually, it's already Earth, Wind, and Fire time with those incredible horns
Sure.
where they really take over for a while melodically. And on this track, especially, they don't take over. It's punctuation. It's like the syncopation. And like that part, I wish the days, bang, do,
It's call and response.
bang, cat. Like that little 16th note accent in there is so slick. And like most people, they don't know what that is, but they feel it, right? It's that like
Right.
linking in with the drums but like sonically, I mean, this must have been such a hard track, the whole hard album to mix because there's so many little details that contribute, I think. I mean, yeah, he's laying down a funky groove, all that kind of stuff, but like the sonic, and then Stevie's singing is like, it has so much expansive, you know, it could just take over the whole thing with the mix and you could bring everything down to just this little thing and let Stevie be over it. But the way this is mixed, it's like everything has its place and it's a very dynamic range on it.
Yeah, no, even down to the way Stevie kind of chops up the vocal. Like he takes words that are 2 syllables and why did those days ever have to go? You know, like he it's like the whole song is punctuation. It's kind of like, you know, horns Stevie.
Right.
That only enhances the groove on the record.
Yeah.
So, all right, Chris, what is the next single then is Sir Duke next after I Wish?
Sir Duke is next. Sir Duke is the second single. So talk about going from strength to strength.
Yeah.
Music is a world within itself, with a language we all understand.
Same horn section from I Wish.
An equal opportunity for all to sing, dance, and clap their hands.
Great pre-chorus coming now.
Yeah.
Don't make it in the groove, but you can tell right away.
Again, punctuation.
People start to move. They can feel it all over. They can feel it all over me. They can feel it all over. They can feel it all over people.
Swing groove. The swing
I was
groove.
going to say, is this Stevie's tribute to swing?
I just said here. Is this the jazziest #1
It's got to
hit
be.
of all time?
It's a song about Duke
It's
Ellington.
very jazz. Well, but it's a specific type of jazz, right? It's
Yeah.
specifically an homage to Duke Ellington, hence
Yeah.
the title.
Yeah.
And you know, and the king of all, Sir Duke. You know,
Yeah.
he's rattling off all those kind of early jazz pioneers. He literally calls them pioneers in the lyrics.
Yeah.
Here are some of music's pioneers. It's like in the verse lyric, he's like, "I'm about to give you a list of things now," and
Yeah,
then he
it
just
is.
rattles it off.
It's a list song.
It's a listicle. It's a list song.
Yeah.
Right?
A re-
People think of stuff like, I don't know, Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire" as a list song, but there's a part of Sir Duke that's a list song.
It's also a
honestly.
listening recommendation
It's
in a #1 hit. It's like, go check
If you
out.
are enjoying this record, some other
That's
records
exactly
you might want to
right.
pick
For a
up.
deeper dive.
If you enjoy Stevie Wonder's songs in the key of life, you might enjoy Basie, Ella, you know, like and there's a list of-
Satchmo.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
king of all, Sir Duke.
Sir Duke, yeah.
But even that, that the famous horn interlude here. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
the pentatonic.
After this
Coming
chorus
out of the
here.
chorus. Yeah.
Bass is playing as well.
You know, that's I never thought about it like this, but that line, I mean, this is like evocative of the big band, like the way that like a trumpet
Right.
section with the trombones, like a Tootie kind of line.
It's not quite.
But it's not quite
Yeah.
because it's entirely a pentatonic scale.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's Stevie's vision of a big band horn
Yeah.
line, which there's not quite as much of the chromaticism that you might hear,
Yeah.
or some of the functional harmony that Duke would put into these things, right?
Hence it being a #1 hit. Because if he'd put that stuff in,
Why not?
can you
That's the
confirm
point,
that?
right? He gets away with stuff
Yeah.
in a #1 hit that nobody else does.
Yeah.
But I love you guys breaking this down for me because I've always wondered. I mean, in my rudimentary knowledge of jazz, hear this and I think, okay, this is Duke Ellington style jazz. But it really isn't, right? It's a hybrid. I mean,
Yeah.
it's because it's coming out in the era of Weather Report and Return to
Right.
Forever. It's a different era of jazz when he's putting this out.
Yeah.
It sounds very much like a line that Stevie Wonder would sing.
Yes.
'Cause
He loves singing pentatonic.
He
loved
sings in
pentatonics, yeah.
pentatonics.
Yeah.
A lot of
Interesting.
melodies there, or maybe it happened on the harmonica. I'm not sure, but it definitely has. It evokes Duke. It evokes Count Basie. Like
Yeah, rhythmically, like it's actually
Rhythmically,
within the swing groove.
the soul of it is
surprisingly.
there, but it's a little bit not the same. It's more like if it were happening in the 70s, what would it sound like?
Well, and to your point, Chris, about Weather Report, and then with this, Adam, like that was, Joe Zawinul, Wayne Shorter, that whole Weather Report, Jocko,
Right.
like they were really getting into pentatonics type of stuff. And a lot of that was coming out of the actually John Coltrane influence. So not so much the part of jazz, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Satchmo, and King of All Sir, like the list that he was saying, but like Chick Corea, who Stevie Wonder was a huge fan of, Herbie Hancock,
Sure.
they would have McCoy Tyner. That was a big thing with that pentatonic sound. So he's kind of filtering through a couple of different kinds of jazz which is crazy because it's like the more jazz you filter in, the farther away you're going to get from a #1 hit normally. But Stevie pulls it off,
And yet, I mean, I think in my memory, you and I are roughly the same age, Peter. I was 5 when this album came out. This is the first Stevie Wonder song I think I was cognizant of.
Me too.
Not counting either that or Superstition because of Sesame Street. But that they can feel it all over.
Yeah.
That hook is it's like fused to my childhood brain.
Yes.
Because it's so exuberant, it's so joyous.
Yeah.
That's
you know?
exactly what I was going to say about this track, Chris, is that like, I think the best part about it is it is like this, hey, you should check out this music from the past. These are the pioneers. It's a history lesson. It's a recommendation. It's a music lesson, but it's done in the most joyful way possible. Like the whole thing feels
Right.
like a party. And it's honestly sometimes the thing that jazz musicians forget about the music that we make is that it can be, in fact, controversial, very fun. It can be very.
This is a hot take.
Hot take.
We're going to pull this one out. This is going to.
We can have fun.
Jazz can be fun.
It doesn't have to be an intellectual exercise. It can be, in fact, a very joyful party, as proven here.
And I'm doing a great job of let's turn it into an intellectual party.
A pentatonic scale is
A pentatonic scale.
No, but I want you to break that down for me because this has always fascinated me. Like, is this a jazz record? Is this a pop record? Is this jazz filtered through a pop sensibility or a funk sensibility?
This is jazz filtered through,
I think
through
that's it.
Stevie Wonder's sensibility.
Yeah.
Is what it's
Right.
like what Peter was saying is like Stevie will sing in pentatonics, and you can just imagine him saying like, I want to write this I got these horns in the studio. I'm going to write this big band line, but it still is filtered through his sensibility, which makes it very special. Like it makes it it's not just him nerding out doing research and trying to like put a bunch of sharp 11s in there and 13s
Right.
because that's what Duke would have done. He's just doing his thing on it.
Yeah. And I don't think it's sort of, I think jazz is probably, when you really break down Stevie's music, especially the harmony of it and stuff, it's like the easiest sort of attractions that he had, and influences that he has to analyze. But I don't think jazz is any bigger than, say, blues or gospel, or even rock to a certain degree later on, maybe with Stevie.
For sure.
But I think in terms of like really the fundamental things that you hear in like his keyboard playing and the way that he sings, there's specific things in jazz, there's specific things in blues, and for sure specific things like for instance on the one before, like that's actually a different version of a pentatonic. That's all pentatonic.
Oh, interesting.
Minor pentatonic. But then he breaks up the pentatonic on the 4 chord, which is very much a gospel thing. You've got like, so he's sort of combining those. And I'm sure he wasn't like, let me combine the,
No, he's just hearing stuff.
He's hearing stuff, but I think like he was such a student of like a wide range of music, you can tell. You know, this was not just like, oh, all this kind of stuff sort of came. I mean, you could hear, I've heard him live a bunch of times, and of course that was later on than this. But like I saw him one time, and this was probably early 90s or something. He started out the set and played Chick Corea's Spain. Like everybody was so hyped up. It's like Stevie comes out, just instrumental, which is like, first of all, oh, that's another pentatonic. So he likes pentatonic. Well, there's a lot of pentatonic in there, but like he just played it as like a fusion band, you know, like just played like a solo, like the trumpet player played it. Like that was their warm up tune. I've heard him do Giant Steps as the warm up tune. Now it's Stevie Wonder. He knows no one's going to leave because he's not playing I Wish as the first tune. Like people are there, they're settling in, right?
Yeah.
He can kind of play whatever he wants on the first tune. But I mean, it's just to say that like he understood a lot of different kind of music. We talk about funk. He was going to, actually before this, he was going to New Orleans in 73 and 74 for sure, real quietly listening to and sitting in with the meters down there. Art Neville, George Porter and stuff used to tell stories about that. So like he had that kind of an influence with the New Orleans swamp funk kind of stuff. So it's, to me, it's so interesting when it comes out on a #1 hit. I'm like, damn, he basically pulled off two. So I Wish and Sir Duke have heavy jazz sensibilities to them, because this is almost like a walking bass line.
Well, and
like a jazz walking bass line.
Yes, I was going to say, it sounds like a walking bass line to me.
And one of the other singles from this album is As, which features Herbie Hancock on the Fender Rhodes.
Yeah.
You know, so there's, it's all over the place. I want to get, though, before we get too deep, I want to get to an honorable mention. This wasn't a hit. This wasn't a single, but it produced one later, and it comes, it's the 8th track of the album. I love this song.
You almost can't hear it. You almost can't hear this song anymore without thinking of what it became 20 years later.
I love Passtime Paradise so much. I love the production.
Yeah.
I love those synth strings. Those aren't synth strings. Those are real strings. Sorry.
No, synths.
Are they synths?
Yeah,
No,
that's the
they're synths.
Yamaha. Yep.
Yeah. No, in fact, that was what was innovative about this record in 76.
Oh, the GX1. Okay.
Yeah.
Been wasting most of that time glorifying days long gone behind. Been wasting most of their days in remembrance of ignorant soul dispraise. Tell me who of them will come
So,
to be.
fast forward 20 years, and you get this from Coolio. 1995's Gangsta's Paradise.
Same key.
The #1 hit of 1995.
The #1 hit of 1995.
The biggest record of that year.
You know, Michelle Pfeiffer turning around the chair, sitting down in the video.
And by the way, notice a little something about that Coolio record. As badass as it is, what aren't you hearing on that record that you would normally hear on a 90s rap record?
Oh. Let's hear it again.
Profanity?
The profanity.
Right.
Yes. Ding.
That's right.
Is that
So
true?
the story goes that when Coolio and Coolio's label went to Stevie Wonder to seek approval for the sample, Stevie said no at first. Then they went back to him. And the second time he said yes, but he said, but you got to take the profanity out. And Stevie did Coolio a favor because that made that record that much bigger. It could be played all day on the radio. It didn't have to be censored or swooped or anything like that.
It was a #1 hit on the Hot 100.
Yeah. Right, at a time when gangster rap is ascendant.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I mean, I love Dr. Dre's The Chronic, but like, you know, they had to record whole different lyrics for Nothing But a G Thing to get that on Top 40 radio.
Yeah.
You didn't have to edit anything on Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise, and as a result, it's a #1 hit and the top hit of the year.
By the way,
amazing.
it charted again after Coolio's death in 2022 at number 55, which is interesting. It went back on the Hot 100 after Coolio passed away.
So that was, I was going to say, was that same, because I knew it's the exact same tempo, same key, and I couldn't tell if that was interpolation or.
I think it's an interpolation.
I think it's
it is
interpolation.
interpolation.
If you
Okay.
listen to just
Yeah.
how the strings sound.
Yeah. Plus, you're talking about a 19-year difference in technology.
Right.
Improvement. I don't know.
Right.
Call it improvement. But the synthesizer in 76 that he's using is, I guess, primitive compared to the one that.
Well, it is. The
Team Coolio
GX1,
was using.
yeah, the Yamaha GX1 was I was always amazed when I found, like, I could kind of tell, I was like, I don't think that's real strings. Stevie used a lot of real strings at different times. And in fact, I heard him do this at the Superdome in New Orleans at the Ebony Festival. It must have been mid-90s with a string orchestra. And it was stunning. You know, it was like to hear him do this.
I'll bet.
It was 1 o'clock in the morning. And I mean, the whole thing was incredible. But, of course, he did his version, not Coolio's version. I should just point out.
Sure.
But
I mean, that's such a Stevie move in 76 on Passtime Paradise to kind of like try to create an orchestra with a synthesizer.
Yeah.
That's such a move that he would pull.
Yeah.
It sounds
I think he
great.
does something similar on Village Ghetto Land also on this album. I think that too has
Yeah.
synth strings
exactly
on it.
Yeah, and he had such
So-
a unique take on it.
Right, that's clearly a synthesizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Another great song.
And almost has a choir like a strings with a choir on. It's just a very unique. Like Stevie was, for all his genius stuff, and still on this record. And I see Greg Fillingane's name, who pops up on every like great hit that we see.
It's
He's
like
somehow
Filligane's
involved.
Appreciation Month around here at the You'll Hear It podcast.
Yeah, of
Guys,
course.
it's
Seriously.
amazing.
Yeah,
I remember when
Ubiquitous.
I first heard Village Ghetto Land, actually, and this would have been, I would have been 16 or so around 1995. And being a little like, the strings,
Yeah.
the synth strings sound horrible because, I'm rocking
It
my...
sounds thin by modern standards.
Yeah, I'm rocking my Insonic synthesizer.
Sampler.
Yeah, sampler. But I still don't think I've ever heard a song quite like that
yeah.
from anybody. Like, it's such an amazing concept, the whole song.
I mean, I think Stevie
and Passtime Paradise and Black Man, I think, are standouts in that
Yeah,
regard.
but I mean, even
I
getting
agree.
even getting to 1976 and synthesizer and even sampling was starting to be happening. Had progressed a lot from like Music in My Mind, fulfilling this even. But like Stevie all along was such kind of an underrated thing that he did. He was such a pioneer and innovator as a tastemaker with synthesizers, like to be able to get different
Sure.
sounds. No, but he had this ability to not just, because you couldn't at that time really strictly imitate a string sound. So like he did one better instead of just trying to get as close. He was able to make it into a new sound. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was able to like tailor the sound and like really dial it in to make it like a personal kind of thing. And I think that when you hear this stuff, it actually doesn't sound dated like it should.
It sounds like the 1970s.
Yeah,
It sounds like when you hear an Asia kick drum, right?
Right,
Like you
it's
don't
a
hear a
beautiful
kick drum
sound.
like that anymore, and it still doesn't
Right.
make it not beautiful. It's gorgeous.
But you could say
But it's of its time.
It's of its time.
yeah, you could say some of the early, once we get into the early 80s with Stevie, some of the synthesizers sound, some of the programmed drums possibly sound a little bit dated. He's getting mad at
This
okay.
is your Gen X.
Okay, sorry.
This is your conditioning, your Gen X conditioning. You were coming of age and thought you were too cool for the DX7 sounds. Just admit it.
Chris, let's talk about 1976, something he doesn't know about.
The kids
when
love-
Sir Duke was playing on
When
the
I
radio.
was 5, but go on.
Exactly. I was 5. I was 6. But another thing, 76, you're talking about like, how optimistic Sir Duke sounded on the radio, and it did. It was
Absolutely.
also, it was just, that was kind of some of my earliest memories. It was like the bicentennial was
Yeah.
like a big deal.
Big deal.
Everybody was
Yep.
into it. It wasn't like today where not everybody be into it. Like everybody was into it. Stevie's on the charts. There's a lot of like, there was just more unifying cultural sort of events, especially in music,
Yeah.
that happened in a way that now, it's different. Like, whatever. Taylor Swift has what does she have? 9 things on the charts right now, and I couldn't sing you any of them because it doesn't hit my algorithm. Nothing against Taylor Swift. But at this, I mean, in 1976, could you have avoided Sir Duke? You know, as an American.
Well, I'll invoke that word that gets used in these conversations all the time, which is monoculture, right?
Yeah.
When in a world where you only had 3 TV networks and everybody got their music from the radio, and you had to go buy your music in a record store if you wanted to play it back in your own home,
right?
You know, you had somebody like Stevie who could kind of own everybody and command the charts, and you know, a number 1 hit was really, if not fully universal, very universal, right? Very universally consumed.
Yeah.
Whereas now, you know, you're kind of, Taylor is legitimately huge. But, you know, many weeks when it's not Taylor Swift, you know, it's like the biggest among, you know, a smaller level of, you know, consumption.
Right.
It wasn't like that in 76 when Stevie Wonder dropped Songs in the Key of Life.
Right.
Yeah, we were just talking about this. We just did Thriller, which would probably be out by now by the time people are listening to this. But we were talking about that same thing. As big as Taylor is, even, you know, my mom doesn't really know any Taylor Swift songs, but I remember in 1983 or 4 when I was, you know, when Thriller was still on the charts, my grandma knew Billie Jean. Like everybody knew, had heard it, had seen it, knew who Michael Jackson was. Knew that music, actually.
Yeah.
So I want to plant a little flag where this show is going right now, just for our listeners here. So if you notice, we're paying attention to the singles and the things that might have charted, because we've got Chris Molanphy on, and so we will eventually do a show on some of the B-sides on this. We've talked about Songs in the Key of Life before, but we're gonna have to do like a 3-hour show at some point, because it's so hard to skip over things like Summersoft and Ordinary Pain.
Oh my God, Summersoft. I mean, B-sides, you mean stuff that the musicians love. That's what we're talking about.
That are like some of the greatest songs ever recorded. One that I don't want to skip, that wasn't a single, and I don't know if it ever charted anywhere, but I just know that as a young musician saving up to move to New York, I played a lot of weddings, and I never played a wedding that we didn't play this. Father-daughter dance.
Yeah.
Right? That's when you know an album's great, when it has a song that is universally known and it wasn't even a hit.
Wasn't a hit.
I was shocked when I saw that this wasn't one of the. We were like, there's 4.
It was not one of the 4 singles.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
I would have.
Crazy. Which means it didn't appear on the Hot 100 back then. For a song to appear on the Hot 100, for it to be eligible, it had to be released as a retail single. Isn't She Lovely was never released as a single.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The 2 songs from this period, I would compare it to. This is a weird analogy. I would compare it to Landslide by Fleetwood Mac from the self-titled record, not a single.
Crazy.
Now universally known.
Crazy.
And Vienna by Billy Joel from The Stranger.
No idea. You're kidding.
What? Not a single.
What?
Not a single. And now it's like, particularly among Gen Z, if you ask a Gen Z person, name me a Billy Joel song, they'll name Vienna before they
it
name
might be
Just
the
Way
most
You Are.
well-known Billy Joel song right now, culturally.
Yeah.
Certainly from The Stranger.
Right.
Wow.
So Chris, why would this have not? Would that have been a Stevie? I mean, he had so much control that he just didn't want. Because I mean, the record company Motown would have been like all over this as an easy crossover. I mean, this is some of the most pop stuff on here, right?
I mean, it has to do, in my mind, it has to do with the typical practices in the music business at the time, which is that you never went more than 3 or 4 singles deep on an album.
Yeah.
What was normal, quote unquote, was that you would, put out maybe a 3rd single and then you'd say, okay, where's the next album? Right. But again, Stevie Wonder is now changing that cadence. He's changing the pattern such that it's no longer weird for an album to take 2 years. The very next year, an album you guys just talked about, Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, becomes the first album to score 4 top 10 hits because they released 4 hits off that album. That had never happened before. Pretty soon, Michael Jackson becomes the first soloist to pull that off. There were 4 top 10 hits from Off the Wall, which came out in 79.
Yeah.
So like, the whole cadence of number of singles you'd release from an album, I will say it is odd to me that as great as the other 2 singles are, which I think we're going to talk about in a minute, that you wouldn't pick Isn't She Lovely given what a mass appeal record it is.
Yeah.
But maybe they just figured, they wanted to serve all the markets and maybe they wanted something a little more jazzy or a little more R&B. I don't know.
Well, our producer Liz is going to help us out here because she has in her researched. It wasn't released as a single because it's 6.5 minutes long, and Stevie refused.
There is that.
He refused to shorten it to put it on a single. disc. So
And even if he hadn't shortened it, now mind you, there's precedent for long singles. Hey Jude in 1968 was a 7-minute single that went to #1 and was never cut. American Pie by Don McLean in 1972 is a 9-minute single. It had to get divided on 45 such that you heard the first half on the A side and the second half on the B side. But on the radio, everybody played all 9 minutes of American Pie. So it's not as if there were no records that were 6 minutes long that were getting played on the radio. But I think Stevie probably knew that there'd be a radio edit within minutes if they put this out as a single. And for him, the point of that record is hearing his daughter taking a bath. You know, late in the sound effects are part of the atmosphere of that record.
And it's
Stevie probably didn't want to.
Yeah, and it's front loaded with that, and then it comes back later.
And then it comes back. Exactly. There's a reprise of the daughter sounds. Exactly. Aisha.
And I was just thinking before you get to that, Adam, not that many years later on, I guess, Musicarium that was like 82 or 81, which was, like some hits on there. I'd probably to satisfy something with Motown, but it had Do I Do on there. We've been talking about jazz influence, and I don't know how big of a hit that was, but I remember that being on the radio.
It was a sizable hit.
Yeah.
Top 40 pop hit, top 5 R&B hit. So Do I Do was pretty big.
Yeah. And so, but talk about radio edits. There's a Dizzy Gillespie solo on there that got radio edited off. If you didn't have the single or the album, you didn't know anything about that because that never got played.
On my record. Yeah.
That never, I remember firsthand because I remember arguing with my sister. I was like, Dizzy Gillespie's on here. She's like, no, he's not. Check it out. It would come on the radio and then it would just like fail. She's like, I told you. I was like, no, he's about to play a great solo.
Typical.
And once we got the album,
Stevie on that record, he even starts rapping toward the end. Like he makes up a rap on the spot. Like
that's right.
He's just riffing as that record goes on and on. But then again, Stevie Wonder has a history of kind of seeing how far he can push it. Trivia, do you know what Stevie Wonder's first Hot 100 #1 hit was?
My Cherie?
Is it Fingertips Part 2?
That is correct. And I'm glad you included the part 2.
Because like
the reason why it's all Fingertips Part 2, which is a great record, by the way.
Yeah.
It's Stevie Wonder, pardon my French, fucking around and refusing to get off the stage.
It's like
that's all it is.
Harmonica
That's what that
solo,
record is.
And then him playing with the crowd.
They're trying to yank him off, and the band, you can actually hear the band in the background like, duh. They're trying to like, okay, that's our final note. Time for you to get off the stage. And he starts playing his harmonica again. He refuses to get off the stage. Stevie Wonder, he's been pushing it his whole career. That's kind of what he does.
That's so great.
Chris, while we got here, I want to go down a little side path here. You mentioned Hey Jude by the Beatles. So Hey Jude, not part of an album, right? Released as a single only.
Released as a single just before the White Album, yeah.
Just before the White Album, but I remember growing up thinking it was either part of Sgt. Pepper's or the White Album, but it's not part of either. It's
not part of either.
It's something.
And now you get it on
own.
a compilation. You get it either on Past Masters or you get it on their collection of #1 hits or something like that.
But again,
and they built an album. Alan Klein built a whole album around Hey Jude called Hey Jude that came out in like early 1970 that collected a bunch of their leftover singles, but never on a formal album.
You might know, but how common was that to have just like this? Because that's
very common.
That's a huge hit for the Beatles. I think one of the first 5 songs you might think of when you think of the Beatles for most people.
I mean, many of the Beatles' hits were not on an album. We Can Work It Out was not on an album. It was in America. And in America, they kind of reorganized. I think it's the American version of Rubber Soul to include We Can Work It Out. But, Day Tripper was not, that was the B-side of We Can Work It Out. She Loves You, not on Please Please Me. That was quite common.
Crazy.
The British record industry had a very different ethic than the American, where they actively did not want singles to be on the album. They thought they were fleecing the record buying public if they put a single on an album. They thought the singles were supposed to stand alone and the albums were supposed to be separate. Whereas the American system was more, we'll sell more albums if there's a hit on the album.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a different philosophy between the British and the American recording
so
industry.
all these like British invasion bands probably have huge hits that were never on an album over there for them.
Never on an album. Yeah, that was quite common. Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of that, like how would this Songs of the Key of Life, if at all, been treated differently for the UK market? Because I know a lot of times we talk about the US and then we'll talk about the UK and then maybe like France, Germany, Spain or something, but then it's kind of like rest of the world. Maybe Japan, and I know Stevie's always been huge in the Japanese market, but specifically for UK or anywhere else in the world, like how would this have been treated differently with these singles and with just radio airplay at that time, like how it was different?
I mean, what's different about the UK charts compared to the US charts is that the UK charts, for most of their history, have been exclusively sales, no radio airplay, especially in England where they have the BBC. And so the BBC is kind of a public trust. It would be weird for the BBC to be factored into their charts. So the charts were always, just sales, and now they are mostly streaming these days. But no, I mean, by the 70s, both the US and the UK were, generally pulling singles from albums. It's just that in the UK, sometimes you'd pick a different single from the album. I haven't checked, actually. If you give me a minute, I can check my British chart book and see if they picked different singles. I don't know if they did, honestly. It looks like there were only 3 singles from Songs in the Key of Life. I Wish went to number 5. Sir Duke went to number 2 UK, and Another Star went to number 29 UK. And then we jump to Send One Your Love, which is from Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants. So unless they went back and released As later, what's interesting to me about them not releasing As in Britain back in 76, 77 is that was later a big hit in a cover by George Michael and Mary J. Blige in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And that version was probably one of the first versions to be a British hit. So
Interesting. As had a renaissance in the late 90s there. I think it was a part of a movie soundtrack. I'm going to forget which one. The Best Man, maybe? You remember that movie?
Yeah, could have been.
Something like that. Before we get to the next couple singles, though, guys, I do want to just give a little bit of a shout out to one of the songs on this album that, again, wasn't released as a single. Of course, it wasn't a hit then, but is sort of become the jazz musician's standard off this album, and it's this song.
If it's magic, then why can't it be everlasting? Like the sun that always shines, like the poet's endless rhyme, like the galaxies in time.
Stevie and Dorothy Ashby.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I was going to say, that's got to be a real harp there.
Yeah, that's Dorothy Ashby, who has an incredible
Legend.
This is called Soul Variations from her Afro Harp album, 1970, I think, 69. Amazing. She has an amazing string of soul harp albums.
I knew none of this. You're educating me on this. This is cool.
Is there a Billboard section for the Afro Harp chart?
No. Pretty sure there's never been such a chart.
Well, no. So
she would be at the top.
The last time we talked
She'd
about
be at the top.
Yeah.
The last time I just want to shout out our dear listeners here, the You'll Hear podcast, because the last time we talked about If It's Magic, I said, I don't know, I'm not sure who's on the harp. And we got a ton of comments like, Dorothy Ashby, go look her up. And they were not wrong. Everybody should go spend an evening or two with Dorothy Ashby's catalog, because it is so funky and so soulful, and she's an incredible player.
Yeah.
But If It's Magic is an interesting one. You were playing a little bit of it.
Well, I've just realized I never thought about this. Pentatonic again. That whole melody.
The whole melody
is a major pentatonic this time instead of minor.
But the form of it, the chord changes and everything feel very much like a modern jazz composition. I think this is why jazz musicians have interpreted it in a bunch of different ways, not just as like a ballad, like you might think of just a pianist or guitarist playing it, which we've heard.
Who's played with it? I wasn't aware of that. That's really cool.
And it's basically, it's kind of jazz, like not what we were talking about before in terms of like the rhythm or the walking bass line. This is almost like Great American Songbook type of melody and chord changes where jazz players take it and then stretch it out.
Got that 2 dominant chord to the 5. It's very, very rich for us. Yeah, it's everything we love about Stevie's harmonic genius is in If It's Magic, and
all the things that kept it from being a single.
You're probably right. So
I mean, that would have, even for Stevie, that would have been a tough sell on radio in 1977.
I guess he technically, with his great, the greatest artist-driven contract ever signed for Control, he probably could have done it, but
he probably could have, but yeah, even he's not going to try that.
So, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the next single that was released in the U.S. was Another Star.
Sorry. Before we move on, look at him. He's catching a wave again. He's catching a wave. No, before we leave, If It's Magic, I want to throw this in there because I got a chance to see. So Stevie did a tour about 8 or 9 years ago that went on for like a year, worldwide tour, kind of on and off again, called Songs of the Key of Life, in which he performed this entire album without intermission.
I saw that tour.
Yeah,
When
you saw
did you
it.
see it?
Yeah.
I saw it in the mid-10s, like 2014, I want to say.
I think so.
something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
I saw
it
that
here.
tour. I saw it at Madison Square Garden.
I saw it here at the Enterprise Center, and it was incredible. But I remember when it got to If It's Magic, that was, although obviously one of the lesser known things, except for the 7 jazz musicians in the audience, that was one of the, like, that's when I realized there was more than 7 people at that show that loved this entire album. And when it got to that track, that was one of the most stunning moments, at least of this show. I mean, Stevie just killed it. I mean, it was well like 2/3 of the way in because he was doing it in the order of the record. But emotionally, it was one of the most moving parts. And people were like people were on their feet the whole show. But I remember that was kind of an apex moment of the show. So just to show that, like, this was not people coming out.
I forget, did he bring out a harpist for that?
He didn't here. I've seen him do it with harp before when he had the whole orchestra. Here, he did it with key.
Okay.
He actually accompanied himself on it.
Very
Wow,
cool.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So the next single released after I Wish would be Another Star. Is that correct?
Or after Sir Duke.
Sorry,
It goes, I
Sir Duke.
Wish,
After Sir Duke.
Sir Duke. And then summer of 77, it's Another Star, which doesn't chart as high, but cracks the top 40, makes the top 20 on the R&B chart. I think it got as high as number 18 on the R&B chart. Just such a funky groove.
It's an interesting track, right?
It's almost a Latin track as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. You know, like it's Stevie doing something akin to what he's doing on Intervisions with "Don't You Worry About a Thing."
Yes.
but in a different
Yeah,
vibe.
the mood
And
is
a-
different.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, listen to that piano motuno.
For you, there might be a brighter star, but through my eyes, the light of you.
Okay, I think I'm finally understanding why, because I was like, why would this have been one out of all the songs on here, one of the singles? I'm thinking 1977, variety shows on ABC. Like this totally, like this is probably the closest to the sound of 1977.
Couldn't you see it on
Yeah.
a TV show?
Yeah.
The opening credits of a TV
The
show.
Osmonds introducing
The Cher
him.
show,
Cher,
the Osmonds,
exactly.
or-
Yeah. Just a shout out here to George Benson playing
Yes.
guitar and BVs on this track.
Yep.
Which I did
Wow.
not realize.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I didn't realize that was George Benson. That's but appropriate, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Makes
Totally
sense.
adds up. When I think of Another Star, I don't know if you guys saw in, I guess it was 2014, when Daft Punk won the Album of the Year Grammy with Random Access Memories, and they did a medley of Get Lucky. They included Stevie's Another Star. Stevie was on stage with Daft Punk and Pharrell and Nile Rodgers, and they actually threw Another Star in there, and it sounded amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's something to go back to.
You know what? I wouldn't put it together, but there are some similarities.
Yes.
The sort of
Right?
feel of the chord progression, obviously the tempo.
The chord progression on Get Lucky is one of my favorite chord progressions in the last 20 years. Just, it's so irresistible.
When are we going to do the Random Access Memories pod, Pete?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
It's coming, man.
All right.
Jeez.
The final single that was released in the U.S. is
The best one.
As.
Sorry.
it's an incredible work.
I
from
agree.
art. Yeah.
I actually agree. God, there are days when "As" is my favorite Stevie Wonder song of all time.
100%.
Which
Chris.
is saying a lot.
saying a lot, but
Yeah.
it's true. It is an incredible song. Features friend of the show, Herbie Hancock.
Is he a friend of the show?
Well, we're trying.
If we talk about-
trying to manifest it, Pete.
yeah. The show is a friend of Herbie's, right?
Should be.
I mean, if there's any two people that this show is I'm going to say three. Well, now Chris, we got to add Chris to the list. But Herbie Hancock, Stevie Wonder, Greg Fillinganes, I mean,
Yeah.
that's becoming like the trinity because they're like one of those is connected to almost
D'Angelo.
everything. D'Angelo
Yeah.
for sure.
But As is again, I don't even know how to describe it. Let's just listen.
Yeah.
To it. Like, what I love about this song is the way that it starts is not how it ends.
Right.
It's like the hook and the verse are so different. This is some.
Do you know what reminds me of a little bit when we get to the big build in a few seconds? Another song that was a #1 hit in 1977, Don't Leave Me This Way by Thelma Houston. In a similar way, the way it's basically using gospel, but in an R&B context.
Yeah.
Different records, because I mean, As is not a disco record, whereas Don't Leave Me This Way is, but similar idea. Like, what can we do with gospel? How can we raise the roof
Right.
at this inspiring moment? There.
Start to.
Should we go right to the bridge?
Wait.
Out of nowhere?
Oh, man. First of all, one of the greatest
the second
tritone
verse,
substitutions ever laid
All right,
down in music.
Pete, all right.
Holy shit.
If we're gonna nerd out, and you're gonna call
Please
out,
nerd out on that, because that moment at the start of the second verse is almost my favorite moment on the whole record.
Oh, it's so great.
if you're gonna
It's
call out
so
the
good.
tritone sub, Pete, you gotta
I think it's a
explain.
tritone.
It is.
And another thing, Chris, you've probably come across this before. Stevie Wonder famously writes everything in the very hardest keys. This is in B major.
Jesus.
I Wish isn't bad.
I Wish is an E flat minor. He does a lot of E
That's not
flat
bad.
minor.
B major.
A lot of B
Sir Duke.
major.
I mean, these are some of the hardest keys for any instrument.
You Are
especially
the Sunshine
keyboards.
is B major as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So explain the tritone sub.
So it's basically he goes down to the 4, which is like somewhat common to start the second verse. Is that the second verse? That transition?
It's like a bridge.
The second verse. It's the start of the second verse.
Start of the
yeah.
second verse. And so like the one chord, it could become the 5, which kind of leads to where we're going here. But he goes, but he's got, well, play it again. Let me figure out the exact voicing. This is stuff we normally do when we prepare, but we're unprepared. But
I've been loving you always.
okay, wait, pause right there. So this is another thing. This kind of bridges some things together that he's, no pun intended, that he's doing on I Wish. So we're going from the major to the relative minor. And it's like going up to the 4, kind of like
Yeah, it's very similar to the I
very
Wish.
church. right?
Interesting.
From a harmonic
I never
standpoint.
noticed that before.
Yeah, the groove on this is like probably the most R&B-ish kind of anything on this record, but like gospel and then like very much blues and church. Keep playing it. Up to the 4. F, A flat minor. Oh, this is the third verse.
Yeah, I think that's
That's
later
the
in
third
the record.
verse.
My bad. I gotcha.
Here.
Yeah. So yeah, he's going. So it's like an F7 sharp 9
Going to E
going
major.
to the E major. It's a very like boom
To the 4 chord, right?
Oh, but it's just like yeah, because the typical thing would have been just
Hold on, just before we even get into the tritone substitution, which is the nerdiest bit of this, the typical thing would have been to go back to the actual verse chord progression,
Right.
which is B major.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he
right?
goes to the 4.
So this
time
is almost like form-wise, this is almost a little bridge that happens where he goes to the 4 chord.
to bring him back.
The
to
melody's
one.
different,
Yeah.
and so hitting that.
The melody's different and the cadence is different, right? Because what's the first line of the first verse is, as around the sun, the earth knows she's revolving.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, when he comes back, he goes, did you know that true love asks for nothing? He's not doing the same cadence he did on the first verse. That's
Yeah.
what blows my mind.
It's a middle 8. It's a bridge that happens after the first chorus, and then after this happens,
Her acceptance is the way we pay.
flat 7.
You're right, it is a bridge. It's a bridge that is functioning as a verse. That's it.
The 2.
To last forever, another day.
Now back to the verse.
And now we're at the one.
Oh, we got Peter Hancock here.
Nice.
Herbie's playing his ass off through all this, by the way.
Oh, I know, and he's busy. I love
Busy
that.
AF.
I love that, like Stevie or some producer or something. Well, Stevie was producer. It's like isn't saying like I don't know. Wait till later, you'll get your solo. Like Herbie starts out this track soloing. Like he establishes himself with that boop boop doop bang. Like that's the way the thing starts. And like just studying.
Yeah. So that's Herbie with those first few notes.
Yeah, Herbie's all over that electric piano sound there.
Look, he's already noodling.
I mean, the noodling is part of what makes the record great.
Yeah, exactly.
Rosebuds know the bloom in early May. Just as hate knows love's the cure.
And that's very Herbie-ish kind of stuff to play.
Can you guys hear the difference between Herbie's style of play versus what Stevie's doing on the rest of the album?
For sure.
It's more noodly?
Yeah, and it's more like it's kind of like
It's more jazzy.
it's more jazzy. It's more
dumb and obvious about
like
it.
that's a real Herbie doing those octaves.
Yeah, the thing that-
nowadays you hear like every pianist, Robert Glasper, Adam Manis, everybody imitates that now.
This little thing, there's a bunch of Herbieisms.
Herbieisms, yeah.
That's a Herbieism.
That's a Herbieism.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just his language all over this.
Yeah.
See, this is why I'm glad I'm here. You guys are explaining this to me. I never noticed this.
And then if we...
But then to your point earlier about like starting to raise the roof, this
is
time,
it.
yeah.
This lift. I call this the lift off.
Yes.
This is why I'm comparing it to Don't Leave Me This Way by Thelma Houston.
Yeah.
Like, oh, baby, my love is full of and desire for you. It's a similar, until the day. Suddenly, it's like the roof is raised.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
And the
right.
way
The
he does it.
It achieves escape velocity.
Yeah, and going into that this is almost like foreshadowing to the big roof raising, which is the whole ending part when they're vamping and they really
Yes.
go. So like with the form, and then he pulls it back to this sort of bridge thing, and here,
Always slap up.
yeah,
I'm going to bring everybody back in here.
pentatonic. That's pentatonic there.
Just the most joyous track on...
And if we go long enough, I believe you get growly Stevie voice before
You do.
the record
That's right. He
fades
comes
out.
back in for like another little mini verse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gives you like the same voice he gives you on Living for
Living
the
in the
City.
City, yeah.
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 By the way, this is a 7-minute record.
Yeah.
And it was released as a single, but I guess Stevie was less bothered by the idea of that
Right.
record being
Thus,
cut down
Stevie
for
violating
single length.
himself.
Cared
Yeah.
more about his daughter's bathtub sound than Herbie's soloing. That's fine.
Hey, that's his right. When
That's
you
a
have that
dad's
kind of artistic freedom, you do what you want.
Herbie gets into something great here. I mean, all of it's great. In a second. Never to be played on a radio, but
Right, you're not going to hear. Maybe AOR, right?
yeah.
That's another thing we haven't talked about. In the 70s, this is the peak of album-oriented rock radio. And although AOR is primarily, bluntly, a white rock format,
Yeah.
they would play the likes of Stevie Wonder on AOR.
Right.
Like, it was not unheard of.
Interesting.
But you can bet your life times that and twice the double. That God knew exactly where He wanted you to be placed. So make sure when you say you're in it, but not of it, you're not helping Timmy get to the place of.
You know what else came out in 1976,
What?
Peter?
What?
Secrets.
Secrets, right?
Secrets. My favorite Herbie Hancock album from his Headhunters era, which actually almost
Is
mirrors...
this 2 albums after Headhunters? Because Headhunters is, what, 73, 74?
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost mirrors Stevie's great era, actually. So it starts with
Right.
Headhunters, and then you've got Man-Child,
Right.
Thrust, and Secrets.
Secrets, yeah.
And Secrets came out in 76.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that stuff that Herbie's playing on there. And I think that I mean, and this would totally make sense. I believe that was one take of Herbie everything that he
Really?
played on there, and that like almost everything was put together on this already. But that would totally make sense. Like having heard him live a lot and like different like he could totally come in and like that sounds like he's just playing. Well, like he listens.
That's why you hire a pro.
Exactly. Well, he's like they play in the beginning, and he's like, okay, I think I got it. Let's go. And like and do a run through, and then Stevie was probably like, yes, and her, they were like, all right, cool.
So
Why not?
Other things that don't happen anymore.
Guys, let's go into, because I think that's all the sort of big hits that happened for sure. And I mean,
We didn't even talk about the greatest tune on the album. That's
Which-
okay. We're talking about hits.
No,
I
we're
got it.
gonna do eventually. We're gonna do a songs 3-hour spectacular where we go on a deep dive on every single track, because it never feels fair to skip over anything.
Well, I want to figure this out too. And since we have the expert on this here, Chris, you mentioned before that like this was like we're joking around that there's many more singles available, but you said having 4 singles off one album. This was like kind of groundbreaking in a way at this time, right?
It was like
Yeah.
you normally didn't go that many singles deep. And this is just before Rumors, right? So Rumors comes literally, 6 months after this album. And Rumors actually generates 4 top 10 hits, but this has 4 singles on it, which in and of itself is kind of pushing it by 76, 77 standards. So yeah,
So with those
they weren't
things-
as big a hits as the Rumors hits, but
Right.
they were, the fact that they all made the top 40 is significant.
So with that, are those connected at all, or was that just kind of random? In other words, did the success of this and putting out 4 singles, would that have affected Fleetwood Mac?
I have to guess that it's off in the ground. Like the labels all watch each other's, patterns. And if they see, oh, wow, because let's talk Turkey, especially in the age of payola,
Yeah.
like getting a song on the radio was an expensive proposition. Part of the reason why the labels would cut it off after 2 or 3 singles was that they're like, look, we've sold what we're going to sell on this, and we're not going to commit another, whatever, $200,000 to get another single up the charts, which is going to require us paying promoters to get it on radio stations.
Yeah.
So, eventually you got to cut your losses or, not throw good money after bad. But when you have Songs in the Key of Life, which is a blockbuster success out of the box, by the way, we should talk about how it debuted on the charts because that's significant.
Yeah, please.
So Songs in the Key of Life is only the 3rd album in chart history to debut at number 1. 2 albums by Elton John did this previously in 1975. Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy and Rock of the Westies. Captain Fantastic is still remembered as a great Elton John album. Frankly, Rock of the Westies is not. But because Elton John was at the very zenith of his imperial period, he could get away with that. Stevie Wonder is the first American to pull this off, the first American artist to debut at number 1 on the Billboard charts. And then I looked this up. This is a shocker.
Album charts.
The album chart,
Right.
yes. What is now called the Billboard 200. Back then it was called Top LPs.
So in the first week it debuts, it enters the charts
Right.
at number 1.
And I'm sorry, a little context for this.
Yeah.
Before the charts were computerized in the 1990s, this was mostly impossible. It was very difficult to get the old system where you were relying on contacting retailers by phone or later fax to tell them, okay, give us your top records, for them to all line up and say, yeah, my top record is this one record. There are literally only 6 albums prior to 1991 that debut at number 1. The 3 I just mentioned, the 2 Elton John albums, Songs in the Key of Life, and then in the 80s there's Bruce Springsteen Live, the box set, there's Whitney Houston's Whitney, and there's Michael Jackson's Bad. That's it. Those 6 records are the only ones that debut at number 1.
So not Thriller.
And not Thriller, not Off the Wall,
I mean,
not
that
Rumors, none of them.
That makes sense, just with what you were saying, like from the technology standpoint, there's just going to be a lag between when it's
There's a lag.
released and
Yeah.
when
Well
they
put.
can collect
Exactly.
the data, because it's all analog collecting the data.
Right.
It's hard. And some people will point to corruption and say, oh, it was the bad old days when everything was corrupt. No, it was, there was payola and there was corruption. It was also just technology.
Yeah.
You literally did not have the data to make it possible for things to debut at number 1. What we then discovered after they switched to the sound scan system where, they're scanning barcodes at record stores in 1991 is, actually more albums than not are going to debut at number 1. Now in a typical year, anywhere from 25 to 40 albums will debut at number 1. It's totally commonplace and it's not special anymore. But prior to 1991, only 6 albums did it. And I mean, I ticked off Elton John, Stevie Wonder, Bruce Springsteen, Michael Jackson, and Whitney Houston. all megastars, right? That you had to be a megastar to pull this off.
Right.
And the other record that Songs in the Key of Life still holds, it not only debuted at number one, it stayed there for 13 weeks. And that is a record that even today it still holds. There are plenty of albums that debut at number one. We just had a Taylor Swift album debut at number one last week, obviously. But they routinely fall out of number one in a couple weeks. Maybe if you're Taylor, you might stay number one for 8 or 9 weeks. But Stevie Wonder stayed number one for 13 weeks, 14 in total. It went back for one additional week in early 77. No album has stayed number one for as many as 13 weeks after debuting at number one.
Crazy.
So that's how exceptional this album was.
That's so interesting. And I'm wondering, and this is entire, so for the albums at that time, that would be entirely on, is that entirely computed on record sales? Nothing with airplay?
Yeah, I mean, in the 70s, it's, retailers reporting their weekly sales back to Billboard and saying, these are our top 30 records this week.
Yeah.
And then Billboard, compiles that data. Now it's actual piece counts. Now they're actually, scanning barcodes or nowadays streams.
Right.
Yeah.
But so I know that this record was kind of a zeitgeist moment.
Absolutely.
Songs of the Key of Life for specifically kind of like Black, middle class, well, just Black record buyers in general, obviously crossed over way into the white web. But I'm wondering if those first weeks, like this was such a big deal. And it was a double album, so it was more expensive. What was it, like 50% more, I think, as I recall, like a double album?
By the way, we haven't even talked about this. It's technically a 2.5 album.
Oh, that's right.
Because it comes with a 45.
Yes, I've got that.
4 additional songs. Ebony Eyes. Do I have this?
All Day Sucker.
Saturn?
Sorry, I do. Yeah. The Something Extra. Yeah, Saturn, Ebony Eyes, All Day Sucker, and Easy Going Evening. Are all on the bonus album. So it's like a double album plus.
Yes.
Crazy.
But in a way, promotionally, my understanding, again, I was 5 when this album came out, so I've read up on this. I don't remember this firsthand. But the 2-year delay kind of worked in its favor because what we just saw with this Taylor Swift album where like the whole country was momentarily obsessed with, when's Taylor's new album coming out?
Yeah.
It was like that for 1976. Everybody was like hyped up. Like Stevie Wonder had gone the longest he had ever gone without an album. And he was coming off of Intervisions and Fulfilling This, both of which won the Grammy.
Yeah.
So everybody was waiting. Yes, the Black community overwhelmingly, but like white fans too, everybody wanted to hear this record.
Right.
This was an event and it was promoted as an event.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I've seen some too. There was they put in a lot of like they had a whole campaign, a print campaign with like definitely like in Billboard, but I believe even in like some newspapers and stuff placed with a whole like with the lyrics to some of the songs. I'm trying to remember which one it was on Song of the Key.
Well, and if you look at the vinyl package, it came with a booklet, which was quite unusual, where a stapled booklet with all the lyrics.
Yes.
And I mean, just the gatefold, it's a beautiful package.
So great.
Well, you were buying an objet d'art when you were buying this.
Yes.
That sounds like an accoutrement, which makes me think of our categories. And I think let's get to our categories now, because Chris, you were so generous to
13 weeks.
Take some time. I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You were so generous to take some time and fill out our silly categories. Let's start with Desert Island Tracks. Peter, what do you think?
I mean, I'm going to say Summer Soft, partly because we didn't listen. I mean, I probably would have said If It's Magic, but Summer Soft is the one. Thank you.
Great track.
Summer soft.
The definition of a good album cut.
In the midst of herself
it's got the harmony.
Right, like this is never going to be a radio hit, but like on the album, it just enriches the album.
But it's like fast forward 10 years, or maybe less than 10 years. This could have been like what was it? Quiet Storm. Like this could have been in the Quiet Storm format. It would have. It might have been played at 2:00 in the morning. It's romantic. It's got the Stevie, like that. His whole, his range of voices. We talked about the growl. I mean, it's almost like he's an actor with all these different roles he can play as a vocalist. I love that track. Sue me.
Chris, what do you got for your Desert Island?
I mean, I've already said it's that's just, it's such a perfect record. I mean, but I guess a close second might be I Wish, because I just love I Wish so much. And there are days when like I need to hear I Wish because it's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
But As is, I don't know, it's just so moving. It's like the lyric and the performance and everything gels on that record. It's like a perfect Stevie Wonder record.
Chris, was there any chance that your Desert Island track was going to be not one of the 4 singles? given your pedigree and expertise?
Yes, actually, I would say probably my third place pick is "Knocks Me Off My Feet."
That's
I
great.
love "Knocks Me Off
That's
My
so
Feet."
good. Yeah.
That's very close to a Desert Island pick
Yeah.
for me.
That would
honestly.
be my wife Kelly's for sure. I already know that would be her Desert Island.
Well, I mean,
pick
you
on
mentioned
this.
like perfect album cuts. This is another perfect album cut.
It's another kind of Quiet Storm vibe.
Again, this is almost radio worthy. I feel like you could play this on the radio.
Yeah, I would say there's probably
borderline.
another 3, 4, maybe 5 that could have been a single.
This is one of them.
from another album.
What was the thing? Actually, I'm remembering back on this. Do I remember I barely remember. I know for sure on like Off the Wall, like radio airplay of songs that weren't singles. That was definitely a thing on like in St. Louis on the R&B stations. That used to happen a lot.
I mean, there's a track on Off the Wall. Is it I Can't Help It? That's the one written by Stevie Wonder.
Yes.
That I think is a black radio staple.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
That was played
you
on the-
know,
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a Quiet Storm record for all intents and purposes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've
always said it's like it's not half. It's like a combination of a disco record and Quiet Storm. And people are like think I'm
Yes.
putting it down. I'm like that's one of my favorite records. It's actually
No,
my favorite.
that's a
Michael
compliment.
Jackson. Exactly. It's absolutely a compliment.
I had as
Gen X Rising. You hear
Gen
us?
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. I had as well, but I'm also going to put in my second spot here If It's Magic, just because it's so beautiful. It's such a beautifully written
is beautiful.
song, and it's
Wait, so Desert Island tracks we get to pick 2? Is that what you're
Well,
doing? I'm sorry.
Chris already got as.
I cheated. I
And
cheated.
so,
I'm
but
the
then he also
precedent.
Chris is the
did
guest. He's
3,
allowed
so
to.
he's allowed to. That's
no,
true.
he's the guest.
Okay,
Come on.
Apex moments. What do you got, Peter?
Come back to me. Let's go to Chris.
Chris,
first.
what do you got?
I mean, I just mentioned Knocks Me Off My Feet. The segue from I Wish into Knocks Me Off My Feet, when you're coming out of I Wish and going into it's almost seamless. I would need to go back to a vinyl pressing to hear just how close they come, but on this my CD, it's like one flows into the other, and it's just such a beautiful moment.
Let's try to catch that a little bit. We'll listen to the last few seconds of I Wish. And this is on
Right, coming out of
This is on Spotify, so it might not work out great.
That might be Stevie on drums, actually. That sounded like.
I can
Oh,
believe that.
it's fading out. I think that might be.
That just there's something about that combination that
So good.
like knocks me out every time. No pun intended.
Knocks you off your feet?
Knocks me off my feet.
That's a great Apex
Yeah.
moment. I'm gonna go with.
Can we just talk real quick about Stevie being the no? Come on, you're catching a wave, bro. No, can we talk about Stevie being the master of the segue between songs? Like, I think this is something that he was.
Album flow.
Oh my God, album flow. Like he had to so much intention.
Talking Book has a lot of that.
Oh.
Talking Book has moments where the songs just kind of are perfectly sequenced.
And I know it's something he thought about and I mean, because you don't get lucky that many times with that. Great sequencing. Go ahead. Sorry, Adam.
For my Apex moment, I'm gonna go with.
Go ahead.
Just making sure. I'm gonna go with Herbie on As. I'm gonna go with that entire last section
Sure.
when Stevie gets the growl going.
Wow,
and
you
then
really
it's
knocked
just,
that fastball out of the park. Way to go. 86 mile an hour fastball. You hit it.
I'm a simple man
You started on third, you
with
ran
a
home.
simple brain.
Way to go.
You give me Stevie growling. You give me Herbie Hancock shredding on a beautiful sounding Fender Rhodes.
There's a moment late in As where like he does this tinkly thing, this
Yeah.
that I just love.
Yeah.
I mean,
The Herbieism there.
Herbieisms.
Okay, Peter, do you have one?
So I got, can I talk now?
Gosh.
You know, I had originally put down Contusion.
I was surprised we didn't talk about Contusion as
Such
jazz
a
guys. I
weird-
would think you guys would be interested.
We always hear
Yeah.
from jazz musicians that we don't talk about Contusion enough.
Yeah. Talk about a fusion track, a
Yeah.
straight up.
It
you
sounds
know,
like Chick
Right.
Corea.
Yeah.
It's the only instrumental on the record.
This could be on
Report.
Secrets.
Unless I'm forgetting something.
It could be on Secrets. It could be on Heavy Weather.
Yeah. Heavy weather, yeah. But that's actually not my Apex moment.
Sorry,
I just
Contusion
wanted-
fans.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah,
I'm glad
'cause
you mentioned it in passing because
it's a
that's an
weird
interesting track.
That was probably played on jazz radio in the set. I'm almost for sure that was played. No, I think the transpositions on Summer Soft, there's like 3 of them. They are like beyond just your typical lift ones. They're so genius. This whole tune is super hard. It's in a hard key. The harmony. It's constantly changing. It's in E major, kind of A. It's actually in B. It's
Weird.
And it's like, wait, what? Oh, it's back to G flat. So these aren't transpositions necessarily, but they're like, just the harmonic movement on it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, we'll allow that. We'll allow that.
And then actually, I was even talking about later when it actually goes,
When it starts
changes
to
keys. We don't even have to
modulate.
get into it. To me, this whole thing,
it's so good. It's so good. Guys, we could just listen to the whole album.
Yeah.
We don't have to just do the hits. No, it's so incredible. Okay.
and I'm a little surprised Summer Soft, now that I'm thinking about it again, now Isn't She Love? I was going to say, what was the most likely to be the next single?
If there was a fifth single, it would have been Isn't She
It's gotta
Lovely?
It had to
Yeah.
have been.
But
But Summer
Bespoke,
Soft
yeah.
is good.
Bespoke Spotify playlist. If this album were on a playlist, which I'm sure it's on many, what would be a good Bespoke playlist name for this? Chris, do you have a good one?
I was going to call it More is More albums.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, one thing I went back when I knew I was doing with this, you guys, I went to my friend Alan Light wrote the review of this album for Pitchfork, and he gave it a 10, or Pitchfork gave it a 10, and he said something really smart. He said almost everyone understood the magnitude of Wonder's achievement, but there were some objections, mostly having to do with the length and sprawl of the record. And then he quotes several people who were quibbling about how long the record was. But to complain about the excess was to miss the point. Any great double album like The White Album or Exile on Main Street could easily be edited into something tighter and more consistent. But the all-encompassing aspiration is the whole idea. The desire to contain multitudes and to cover as much ground as possible during a revved-up creative groove. Sometimes more is more.
Well,
And
go ahead.
that was the truest thing I think I've ever read about. Yeah, because frankly, among my favorite Stevie Wonder albums, we'll get to this, I'm more of an Inner Visions guy. I play that record more often. But like the whole point of this album is the muchness of it.
Yes,
It's too much.
It's depth. It's so long and there's so much to it. But by the way, as we've been discussing here, very, very little filler. There's very few tracks that you are skippable, if any.
No.
All
There's
of
nothing
them-
throw. Well, of course, there's nothing throw.
All of them are worthy of a listen, and many of them, as we've been talking about, are masterpieces that, behind masterpieces. I like that. I have, for my Bespoke Spotify playlist, 2.5 albums. I didn't have anything, but when you mentioned that there were 2.5 discs in the original, I thought that was great.
And as I recall, that 45, I don't think that they really advertised that. That was like a little bit of, I mean, obviously word got out, but it was a little bit of like kind of an extra Easter egg.
It was a bonus.
Yeah, it was a bonus.
They
in the
called it A
booklet.
Something's Extra. That was Stevie's
awesome.
name. A
Oh, so
Something
cool.
apostrophe S Extra.
Man, this was an event album,
Peter, what do
It
you
really
got?
was.
That's what I should have done, Bespoke Spotify plays, but that doesn't make sense on Spotify because Spotify somehow kills everything and makes them not events with their damn fade-ins and fade-outs. Sorry, but I digress.
Here.
I'm calling this is really clinical, but 4+ singles, jams.
So,
But I'm adding a Z to jams so that
make
it
it
doesn't
fun?
sound too nerdy.
To
Make
make
it a
it
little
fun?
more
Okay.
fun.
Well, in all seriousness, you could compile a Spotify playlist of albums that generated 4 or more singles, and the singles are all great.
yeah.
Once you get to the 80s, then it's commonplace. It's,
Right.
Thriller, it's Born in the USA,
Yeah.
it's Faith by George Michael, it's, Hysteria by Def Leppard, it's Madonna's True Blue. Like lots of people did multiple hits off an album.
Right.
But this is one of the earliest that's pulling that many singles off an album.
All right, you heard it, folks. Create the playlist. You got it. Okay, up next, what other albums pair with this? What are you playing right after this? Peter, you want to go first on this one?
Well, I'm playing Rumors because
Interesting.
I think, sometimes I go into I could be like any Stevie I would listen to, but I think, to Chris's point of more is more, you listen to this whole thing, and that's what I always take this. Like, if I were to listen to this whole album, first of all, I'm going to smoke a cigarette after I listen to this whole album. I'm going to drink a bottle of wine. I'll probably drinking a bottle of wine while I'm listening to it.
You don't even smoke, but
I don't smoke. It'd be a good time to start. But I think, the reward you get from listening to a album of this length, but where the sequencing is so good, it's like an epic movie or something. What would you actually listen to next? Actually, Rumors would be bad because that's another kind of epic album. But it's different enough. You
It's
know what I
different
mean?
enough. It would be fun.
But it's from the same period. So I'm going to go with Rumors.
Chris, what do you got?
I'm going to go with a Donna Summer album, and I think the obvious pick is Bad Girls, because I think it has a similar ambition. It's a double album. It's kind of her and Giorgio Moroder and Pete Bellotti kind of doing this kind of ambition across two platters. It's in an R&B context, but also a pop context. I don't know. Logically, I feel like you have to have Songs in the Key of Life first for Bad Girls to make sense and be the blockbuster that it was.
This is a great pick, man. Yeah. Up next. This would flow right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2 years later, and it sounds like
It's
2 years
disco.
later, 3 years later.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
I love this track too.
Man, it's such a reminder. We talked about earlier from like the early 70s to the mid 70s, which would take us right to Songs in the Key of Life. Technologically, with music and instruments being such a rapid expansion and recording technology, but from 75 to 78 and 79, then you get into Off the Wall. Huge jump. I mean, the 70s was
Huge jump.
big jumps in there.
For mine, I'm going to do a first here on this podcast.
Yes.
I've never actually done an Up Next and recommended a podcast, but I'm going to recommend The Wonder of Stevie. Brilliant podcast that was
so
released
good.
last year, covering this period
That was great.
of Stevie's career. If you haven't checked out The Wonder of Stevie, go listen to it. I will also throw
Hosted
in
by
there
my friend Wesley Morris.
Wesley Morris,
Wesley's great.
amazing. And if you want some music that you might pair with this, for me, we mentioned Secrets, released in the same year from Herbie Hancock, who was, of course, playing Rhodes on As, but I think Secrets would pair nicely with this.
Okay, so two. You got two again.
Okay, sorry, I'm spoiled here.
Who's the guest?
Quibble Bits. Quibble Bits. Chris, why don't you
okay.
start it off? What are your Quibble Bits?
My quibble bit is Joy Inside My Tears,
Oh.
which I love the groove on that track, but it goes on for 6.5 minutes, and I sort of feel like it doesn't modulate enough. I wouldn't say I ever skip that track. I don't.
Yeah.
But it could have been 4 minutes and it would have been fine with me. That's my quibble bit.
I love the bass on this track.
I do too.
I've always come to
This is another Stevie voice. Totally different voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
My Quibble Bit is actually, we mentioned how long this is, but not long enough. I'm going to say
Oh
that.
my
Stevie,
God.
lazy.
This is like when you do a job interview and you say, oh, my greatest flaw is that I'm too much of a perfectionist.
Yeah. My greatest flaw is I care too much.
I care too much. I help others
No,
too much.
you know what it is? It's so brilliant. I could honestly live in this album for 3 hours. I
Yeah.
really could.
I'm trying to remember when we did Intervisions or any of the others. I don't remember ever being able to really. I always want to come up with a quibble bit, and I don't want to be such a fan. The only thing I can say is maybe. I'm sorry. Did you finish with your
I'm done.
ridiculousness?
Thank you.
Because you usually have two. No, it would be. I mean, this is such a minor thing. I think the mix on this record is incredible. I think the mastering of it.
Careful.
I think the sound, the drums are so, like hearing it in headphones again, which I haven't done in a while. The drums are panned so heavy, right and left, certain parts of them that it's just a particular way of doing it, you know. But I think that it almost is a little distracting. But I mean, we are talking the quibblest of the bits right here because I think it's genius level.
You mean
mixing.
compared to the drum sound on like Intervisions or
For
Music of My
sure,
Mind or
for
something
sure
like
on
that.
there. But even compared to, and then this was a little bit of a stylistic thing in the mid 70s is to do that. It's like, and I mentioned earlier about in terms of placement within the mix, so important, so many different things happening. Stevie's range in terms of vocals possibly taking over everything, but then having, you know, nothing is flat on this record. Everything is, but like the drums are so much wider than everything. They pushed them so far to the right and left. Minor quibble bit.
Stevie, producer of this album, so I hope he's listening right now and took your note, Peter. Thanks for the note. Okay.
Remix, please, Stevie.
Is this project locked, Stevie? Okay. Snobometer. Chris, what do you have?
This is on a scale of 1 to 10, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, first of all, let me warn you, Chris.
I'm new to this concept. So
No, explain what it is, 'cause
No
we
one
don't even
understands it.
understand.
No one understands it. So the idea is that
go ahead.
1 is a very accessible, a very
Give an example.
a very commercially viable album. Thriller would be a number 1. A 10
Okay.
would be like a Cecil Taylor album that is a very snobby album that is not for the masses, that is for music snobs.
I think I understood it. And when I thought about this, I gave it a 4
Mm.
because I feel like there's a lot here for music snobs and the muchness of the album is a lot to digest. And yet it's very accessible, right? So
See,
it's
he gets
making a lot of concepts that would be inaccessible accessible to a pop audience.
Yes. What do you have?
I think that's honestly the best Snobometer rating we've ever had.
Hold on, I say stuff like that all the time, and you're like, why don't we throw away
Peter,
this stuff?
you've been a 5 on the Snobometer every episode this season.
Well,
What do
that's
you
not
got-
true.
What do you
That's
got right
not
now?
true.
Let me
No,
guess.
let me
Can I
hear
guess
yours.
what you have?
I'm going to go, Chris. We got Chris as a 4. I like it. I respect it. I'm not going to go exactly there, but you go first.
I have a 3.
Of course you do. Explain that. What is that?
So a 3 is just a little bit more on the commercial side of things than I think where Chris is on it. I think it's very accessible. I think it's got a ton of tracks that you play at weddings that are #1 hits. I think if you're on now, especially with the context of this show, Peter, where we talk about people like Thelonious Monk and Art Tatum, like this is incredibly accessible. What do you got?
I got 5.
I knew it.
No, the reason being similar to Chris, but I would say it's almost down, like, to me, like, how can you call, the only record to debut, it debuts on the Billboard top pop charts.
Yes.
Top albums.
#1.
And stays there for 13
Number 1.
weeks. So how is that any snobby at all? That would make it a 1 on the Snobometer. That's like universal appeal out the gate. And yet, then all these things that we picked out here would make it a 10 in terms of like the pentatonics, and he's going to the tritone sub and all this.
The complexity.
The complexity of it, like the nuances of it, the range of it is kind of crazy in terms of stylistic range. So that would make it a 10. So
okay.
if you average 10 and 1, you come to 5.
Okay, I'm not going to shame your Snobometer score.
I also think there's something about the length, and this may have something to do with the difference between Adam's 3 and my 4, which is that you think the album could be even longer than it is.
Yeah.
I have always been closer to the camp that thinks it's over long, particularly when you include the bonus 45.
Yeah.
And there's probably a tighter version of this album, but what would you throw out? Like, I can't think of what you would throw out.
Yeah.
So something about the length also has something to do with the Snobometer, I think.
Absolutely.
Is it better than Kinda Blue? Is it better than Miles Davis's 1959 masterpiece, Kinda Blue? Peter, what do you have?
I got maybe on this.
Also, what you've had every episode.
No, I
this
haven't.
season.
That's not true. A couple times.
A couple times you have even.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to say probably not, but closer than one would think.
Chris, what do you have?
It is not better than Kind of Blue. I'm only judging this on how much I play those two albums. I am the quintessential pop guy who plays Kind of Blue a lot. I'm not a jazz guy, but Kind of Blue is perfect.
Yeah.
I can put it on any time when you're in the mood. Kind of Blue is the thing that scratches an itch that only Kind of Blue, satisfies. I don't play this in full as much as I play Kind of Blue. I dip in and out of this album a lot. So, yeah.
I love that we should probably think about adopting this. I love that Chris is like, I think we started to overthink the better than kind of, I mean, like what I'm hearing from you, Chris, is you took this as literally the proof is in the pudding in terms of how you react. Not what you think you should be doing, not what you think people should think of you.
I hear what you're saying. I'm like trying to be a little objective as well, because what is Kind of Blue? It's the most perfect album in its genre, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that you can say that Songs in the Key of Life is the most perfect album in its genre, and it's quite long.
But
it might not even be the most perfect Stevie album.
We've talked about this because oftentimes
it's not.
it'd be like
Intervisions is his most perfect album in my opinion, but that's me.
But the question is it better? Which implies it's a personal taste, right? It's your personal taste. And the proof is in the pudding. It's like, which one do you put on more? For me, I put on Songs in the Key of Life more than I put on Kind of Blue.
Oh, snap.
I've listened to it more in my life
Respect.
than I probably listened to Kind of Blue. So I'm going to say, yes, it is better than Kind of Blue.
Okay. I like that. I like the
right.
flag that you've planted.
I like the firmness of that.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's not a firm flag. I can kick that thing over. Don't worry.
Accoutrements. Peter, why don't you go first?
I mean, this is 10. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Like the
Perfect.
art, it speaks to the time, the booklet. Thanks for the reminder on that, Chris. I still remember what that feels like. I still have it. The 45, genius. That wasn't the first time that was done, but I think this is kind of the way that was done, probably one of the most famous times. The double album. I mean, even like the what is it, Tamla Motown, on the LP, the label
That
on
is
there.
beautiful.
Oh,
Tamla had a beautiful label.
yeah.
I also have a 10 out of 10. I just can't imagine it getting much better than this. Chris, what do you got?
I was going to give it an 8. I may go up to a 9. I wish the sleeves that held the LPs were a little prettier.
Wow.
They were a little plain. That's a quibble.
I like that.
That's
and
a
also-
deep cut.
And also, Stevie Wonder album art, as beautiful as the cover of this album is, and it is beautiful. I don't know. I kind of love Intervisions and maybe even Fulfilling This a little bit more. But these are minor quibbles. It's at least a 9, if not a 10. I wouldn't argue with y'all's 10.
Well,
honestly.
and then maybe you're bringing in, and we probably all are in a certain, like the 2-year wait. It's like now everybody's demanding perfection for every, like you say, you got to go to the sleeves of the actual LP. And I think you
Right.
delivered on the music. And hey, you got to, come on, Stevie, are you listening? You got to get the drum mix together and get your sleeves together. Then you'll have the perfect album.
It's like we have some nerve even bringing this up.
I know, right? I know.
That's the fun of it.
It
That's
is the fun of it. And Chris Molanphy of the Hit Parade podcast, thank you so much for being
Yes.
here with us today.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
It was really a blast. Everybody go check out Hit Parade. We're going to link to the show so that you can check Chris's podcast out. It's fantastic. All of the chart talk that you guys do over there is just fantastic, and appreciate your time with us
And if any
today.
of our listeners want an antidote to us, like, blustering through and messing up the charts as we talk about it, go over to Hit Parade where they get the shit right. You know what I'm saying? Because I know one thing. I've listened to Hit Parade. They're talking about tritone substitutions and screwing those up.
They are not.
We got to get our chart
We
game together.
are not. Really, you should be listening to both. They complement.
There
That's
you go. That's what they just listened to.
Until next time.
You'll hear it.